Greetings! Welcome to the 23rd/25th episode of a series that was supposed to end 1.5 years ago, but is still around and kicking. If you want to watch the full series, a playlist will be available here and at the end of our video. I've removed the first 4 videos for the sake of your viewing pleasure. I hope you don't mind. Either way, let's begin this episode of our favorite triannual tragedy. Projectile ID 39, the falling mud block, is currently one of many unused projectiles. It used to be spawnable in 1.0.5 when mud blocks had a chance to fall after being struck, but this feature was removed in the following update, thus making this projectile unspawnable. Item ID 5013 is the sleeping icon. This item's only purpose is to act as a sleeping item when hovering over a bed to sleep. Otherwise, this item is completely useless and unobtainable. Of the 4 items that have magnet in their name, 3 of them are shaped like horseshoe magnets. The 4th item, the magnet sphere, is just a book. Despite looking exactly the same as friendly musket balls, bullets fired by enemies like the Pirate Captain or Sand Tank 1 use a different projectile. They use projectile 180, Bullet Deadeye, versus projectile 14, Bullet. The gem minecart's frontal gems all have slightly different cuts that vaguely resemble the large gems used to craft them. For example, the frontal gem for the amber minecart is cut smoothly, unlike the other minecarts. This is because the large amber is also cut smoothly. The Terraria official wiki, hosted at wiki.gg, uses a certificate issued by Google Trust Services. The unofficial fandom wiki uses one issued by GlobalSign. Speaking of the fandom wiki, I'm surprised it's still somewhat updated, though it seems a bit behind. The Echo Chamber is internally called the Echo Monolith, which makes sense as it takes from traditional monoliths in functionality. The die with the highest rarity is Skiff's Blood, at Cyan. It also shares its position with Loki's die, which is also Cyan as they are both developer items. Other dies only reach up to light red in rarity, even though some of them are locked behind the Moonlord as well. The circle created by Lunatic Cultist during his clone attack is a projectile. Item IDs 3705 and 3706 link to 2 glitched chests. They are apparently supposed to be trapped chests given the fake underscore in their internal name. Placing them down makes them appear as a trapped crystal and golden chest, but interacting with them in any way completely glitches out the character, and hovering over them in the map crashes the game, at least in Tmod. In the Everscream Relics held item sprite, his fingers face outward, but on the placed item sprite, they face inward. This is likely due to the lack of pixels, making it inconvenient to have them face inward on the smaller held sprite. The Old One skeletons are, as my parents would call them, shrimp. Typical skeletons, by contrast, still seem to be in the prime of their life. Their spines are immaculate. Despite taking 99 torches to craft, the flaming mace is not a cent more valuable than the standard mace to NPCs. In the painting Remnants of Devotion, the Lunatic Cultist is surrounded by 4 Lunatic devotees, instead of the typical 2 devotees and 2 cultist archers that normally surround him. Old Terraria leggings used to have their sprites drawn at an angle versus straight on as they are nowadays. It's something that's distinctive of the older versions. In June 2024, Terraria surpassed the cumulative sales of Super Mario Bros. For the NES. It has so far sold 58.7 million copies to the NES Classic's 58 million. The 2 extra probes attached below the head of Medusa and at the base of its tail are an interesting stylistic choice, representing either the creature's breasts or testicles, likely the former given that it's female. Regardless of what they are, they detach once the head or tail is destroyed and act as normal probes from then on. Pixie Dust's former sprite is much more triangular than its current sprite, resembling the coin piles we have today. Before version 1.2, mechanical bosses could not spawn naturally. Instead, you were forced to craft their summons. The very first section of data stored in any Terraria player file is the player file's version, stored as a 4-byte unsigned integer. Currently, as of game version 1.4.4.9, we are on file version 279. Look closely and you realize that the Hungry each have 6 teeth. Meanwhile, Big Mama Wall has 8 teeth, 2 extra. In a similar comparison, the Eye Cthulhu and Spasmatism both have 8 teeth, while the Wandering Eyes have what looks like 4 teeth. Apparently, demon eyes grow teeth with age. I guess the Wandering Eyes aren't quite as old as the Big Eye given their dismal tooth count. Terraria's traffic on Google Trends currently sits at 13% of its all-time peak during 1.4's release 4 years ago, and 44% of its lesser peak during 1.4.4's release. Also, according to Google Trends, Terraria is most popular within America in Utah. I guess the Mormons quite like Terraria. My own state lags behind quite a bit, though our potato-loving neighbors out east seem to be more interested. Huh. The Pantone color that most matches the gray found in Terraria's gray rarity is Pantone 877C, which is this. It's a few hex codes off. The Obsidian lockbox has a sell price of 40 silver, while items obtained from opening it are all valued at 2 gold 50 silver. This means selling these items is always a terrible financial decision, especially considering that shadow keys are infinitely reusable. You are literally losing 84% of the value of the box. Despite having no mouth and no lungs that I know of, the Moon Lord is seemingly able to vocalize deep, hollering sounds, as it annoyingly makes all throughout its boss fight and window. When crashing into an enemy at max speed on a minecart, you deal 50 base knockback to it. This is 2.5 times the high space knockback typically obtainable via conventional weaponry. Deerclops has 4 branches on both its antlers in the flesh. However, both its map icon, mask, and relic only feature 3 branches per antler. The only derivative that has all 4 branches is its trophy, which shows a complete severed antler. If you join a brand new world with a player that has used the Torch God's favor, the Beast Tree entry for the Torch God will autocomplete. This is because whether that Beast Tree entry unlocks is based on whether the Torch God's favor has been consumed. This value is stored on the player file, so it's persistent between worlds. The ring around the sun during a solar eclipse in Terraria is orange, but it should appear as white, which is the color the sun's corona takes during total solar eclipses. You may think the discrepancy is because Terraria's solar eclipses are annular and that the orange band is a thin orange annulus, but it is not. During an annular eclipse, the sky is still bright, which it is clearly not during Terraria's eclipses. The Deadly Sphere enemy has an unused form that looks like this. Interestingly lopsided, it bears a stunning resemblance to the Sputnik space probe. The water drop in the wet debuff is 1 pixel off-center to the right. I guess it was necessary given the even-dimensioned workspace. The hibernation recipe used to require 2 pieces of obsidian, presumably to create the 2 massive purple beady eyes featured near the top left of the sprite. The obsidian requirement has since been removed, but those obsidian eyes remain in spirit. And lastly, the pirate smells like shit. Of course, this is to nobody's surprise. Although, apparently, the guide smells even worse. If the guide smells bad to the pirate, then damn, he must reek. Hello, thank you for tuning into this latest episode of this legacy series of Terrasteel Brain Rot. You can watch the series starting from the first passable episode using this playlist on the left. Some other video will be available on the right. Consider subscribing if you like the series, as only a quarter of you do. Either way, thank you for watching, and good day, and goodbye. See you next fortnight, week, month, whatever.